A British member of parliament is exposed as a terrorist sympathizer, and it's all caught on tape. A report you will not see anywhere else.
Digesting a rather radical view of the world. George Galloway is a member of the British Parliament, an outspoken supporter of Saddam Hussein, of all people. He also believes the USA brought 9/11 on itself.
You may think that those aeroplanes in this city on 9/11 came out of a clear blue sky. I believe they emerged out of a swamp of hatred created by us.
These Al-Qaeda chaps, these killers and sadists and nihilists and producers of indiscriminate explosions, wouldn't be this way if we weren't so mean to them.
Okay, let's go back to the first Gulf War. Did Saddam have a right to invade Kuwait?
No, and both of the conclusions you've just attributed to me are false. I'm not a supporter of Saddam Hussein, far less an outspoken one.
Saddam Hussein will live in history long after these dogs.
I have some quotes here.
Yeah.
This is in 1994 in a speech you made in Baghdad, okay? And you correct me if I'm wrong.
I will.
I'm going to quote from the speech.
I will.
You're talking in front of Saddam. Your Excellency, Mr. President, I greet you in the name of many thousands of people in Britain who stood against the tide and opposed the war and aggression against Iraq.
Yeah. What does that mean?
To greet Saddam Hussein in 1994 in Iraq and to salute him for his courage and his indefatigability.
You're lying again. Your nose is growing.
Sir, I salute your courage, your strength, your indefatigability. I can honestly tell you I was coming to Iraq and hoping to meet with yourself.
When the dictator was financing global terror, when dissidents were rotting in jail or having their tongues cut out in the street, when all this was happening, George Galloway went to Iraq, stood in front of Saddam and said, "Sir, I salute your courage, your strength and your indefatigability."
Putting words in my mouth that I never spoke.
You never said that. No, you're telling me you never said that.
Not about Saddam, I didn't, and you know
you
very well.
You stood next to him and said, "Sir, I salute
very
your
well that I didn't."
Sir, I salute your courage.
So I'm against war. I'm against war.
Okay, Mr. Galloway, just relax.
Yeah.
All right, so you're against... You said Saddam shouldn't have invaded Kuwait, but you're against removing him by force. Okay. Then how would Saddam be removed from Kuwait if not by force?
Well, Kuwait belongs to Iraq. Kuwait was a part of Iraq. Kuwait was stolen from Iraq by Britain. There is a historical fact that Kuwait never existed. It was part of Iraq. It was taken from Iraq by the empire for selfish strategic purposes. Secondly, Kuwait was stealing Iraq's oil.
Well, let's get back. Let's not deflect the issue. Let's go back to Kuwait, because I want to walk through. No, you're deflecting the issue. If Saddam invades Kuwait, a sovereign country, and the United States and Britain and other countries come to Kuwait's aid and stop the murder and raping, as we know took place there, I don't know how you could criticize the United States and say to Saddam, "I greet you in the name of many thousands of people who stood against the tide and opposed the war and aggression against Iraq." See, this to me is, I don't understand.
Kuwait was overproducing and thus reducing the price of oil exactly at a time that Iraq needed to earn more money rather than less.
Do you believe that Israel has a right to exist?
Sure, it exists irrespective of my point of view. It's a military superpower. It's always going to exist. It's got.
Do you believe it? Do you believe it has a right to exist?
Well, every country that exists, by definition, has a right to exist, or it wouldn't exist.
And I think that you implied in that speech that Israel and the Jewish people didn't have a right to self-determination.
Let me set out my views just for the avoidance of doubt. I'm not in favor of a two-state solution, because I don't believe in Jewish states.
Hezbollah has never been a terrorist organization. And I'm here to glorify their leader, Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah. الموت لإسرائيل.
But let's not dance on the end of that needle. The point is, America, as the only superpower in the world, underwrites a nuclear-armed superpower in the Middle East called Israel. It's always going to exist. This is a...
Would you rather see America walk away from Israel entirely?
Well, I think America should strike a more balanced policy in the Middle East.
الموت لأمريكا. a terrorist organization. Hassan Nasrallah is the real leader of the Arab people.
Was the USA wrong in removing the Taliban?
The Taliban are not an enemy. No, they're not an enemy to me.
With their Kalashnikovs,
ينتعلون الصنادل ويتسلحون بالكلاشنيكوف
of weapons,
ويستعملون الأسلحة البدائية يكتبون أسماء مدنهم وقراهم على النجوم.
145 military operations every day.
After 9/11, was the USA wrong in removing the Taliban?
Yeah, but I don't have any enemies in Afghanistan.
No American soldier who leaves his barracks can be sure that he will come back alive.
But this question is simple. Was the USA wrong in removing the Taliban after 9/11? We could talk history all day long. Well, yes or no?
No, I wish it were simple. If life were as simple...
Say it was simple. I'm asking your opinion. Were we wrong in removing the Taliban after 9/11?
Well, if it were as simple as that, then we'd be talking about a very rosy picture.
I'm going to write down you don't want to answer that question.
No, because
I got another.
Not yes or no, certainly not.
It is.
No, it's
were
not
we
a yes
wrong?
or no question.
Were we wrong in removing the Taliban?
It's not a yes or no question.
Or no?
It's not a yes or no question.
Every dignified person in the country would fight them.
Had a successful election. They have a successful election in Afghanistan.
They didn't have a successful election.
Sure they did. It was a democratic election, and 10% of the candidates were women, sir.
Listen.
The American army is losing the will to...
Were the Al-Qaeda bombings in London justified?
Well, I'm almost insulted that you can ask such a question.
We say to these young angry Muslims, we know you're angry. You are right to be angry.
It's nothing to do with me.
Is it okay for Iran to have nuclear weapons?
Well, this is a very interesting question.
جنوب تا شمال و از شرق تا غرب یک فریاد است و اون مرگ بر امریکا. نبرد ما با امریکا همیشه نبرد ما مرگ بر امریکا پلید لعین.
Why is Israel allowed to have nuclear weapons but not Iran?
Israel has not shown any predilection to spread jihad throughout the world. I don't see any Jewish jihadists or suicide bombers.
دید نکنید که انشاءالله اسلام همه کجا رو فتح خواهد کرد همه قله های
There's no Jewish jihad to impose their religion on anyone else as there is in the Muslim world.
Listen,
are you okay with Iran having nuclear weapons?
Well, actually, they don't have nuclear weapons.
تأکید داریم بر صلح‌آمیز بودن سلاح هسته‌ای ما، سلاح نیروگاه هسته‌ای ما و انرژی هسته‌ای ما.
For determination to face these enemies, and I believe, God willing, we will prevail and triumph.
Mr. Galloway trades a better set of manners when he's in Los Angeles from the one that he exhibits when he's in, say, Syria on state television, when he praises the martyrs and the jihadists and the 150 or so operations they conduct every day in Iraq. He goes there to stir it up, and then he comes here to tell us, watch out, they're being nasty. That's, I think, disgraceful.
بأن المقاومة العراقية لا تدافع عن العراق وحسب إنها
George is the only one where any action's been taken, and it's quite clear that it's nothing to do with this position on Iraq. It's a position on British troops and calling on foreign troops to fight against British troops.
Mr. Galloway, you have a record as long as my arm of justifying autocracy across the world, and you admire Castro because of the way he rules.
All the papers seem to imply that you get executed in Iran for being gay. That's not true.
His boyfriend was hung, though,
yes,
wasn't
but not for being gay, for committing sex crimes against young men.
You said the other day that you thought that the assassination of Tony Blair would be morally justified.
By an Iraqi.
I suppose we have to congratulate you on being absolutely 100% consistent in your support for unmentionable thugs and criminals.